And a good Monday, everybody. Welcome in, Chase and Big Joe, 102.5 The Game. Big Joe off for a couple of days, so Nick Frazier sitting in the studio. We let him out of the cage in there, and he got to come in and hang out with us.
I'm starting to pry. There we go.
No. Let's get his mic going.
Test.
There it is. There it is.
I started to pry open the door a little bit.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can sneak through. And I guess you guys have finally found me.
So Dr. Crane is here. I'm Chase McCabe and Brandon Bigsby behind the glass. On this Monday, as the Final Four is set, baseball has opened their season, still the off season for the NFL and the Titans. And the dance comes to a screeching halt for the Vols, which we'll talk about. And there was a way too long college baseball game in our city over the weekend. So a lot to get into on this Monday, plus John McClain at 2 o'clock.
It's going to be a fun show.
It is going to be a fun show. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but like Jake Lyman, as we were transitioning, we were talking about it. Vanderbilt and Tennessee go 16 innings on Saturday, which in my opinion should never happen in college baseball. In the majors, give me all you got. But in college baseball, I never, ever, ever want to see that again. They got to look at that. And I'm one that I'm not a huge fan of the ghost runner rule in the majors. But I think in the college game, if you had the ghost runner at second, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, and looking at the game product itself, it's a good product. It's just you have some things that you need to grab to the elements from Major League Baseball. That's one of them. I like the ABS system. We'll get in a little bit of that later on, but I think they need to add that a little bit into college baseball. You don't have the same depth as you do in Major League Baseball when it comes to pitching. So, and we saw that in the third game of the series with Tennessee and Vanderbilt. So, I mean, I'm with you. I think this has to be changed a little bit, but way too many innings.
Yeah. So we'll see what they end up doing there, but. League meetings going on for the NFL at the Biltmore Hotel in Phoenix. As all the owners are there, so nothing too crazy. I know some of the GMs have spoken, and Howie Roseman was asked about A.J. Brown, and basically every time he was asked about it, he pretty much said A.J. is a member of the Eagles, and so that was kind of his response, and I get it. I guess the 18 games that's on the docket potentially talking about that. That's coming. I mean, whether it's this time around or next time, I mean, it's going to happen at some point. But that's kind of where we're at with that. And then, as I mentioned, with college basketball, the Final Four set in the Vols. I mean, when I turned the game on, it was looking good, and they were battling, and then all of a sudden it got away from them. They lose 95-62 to Michigan. Michigan's really good. I think Michigan's going to win the whole thing. I really do. Yeah. Now that Duke's out, UConn wins that on a game winner, 73-72. I think UConn's really good too, but I just think Michigan is the team to beat.
Yeah, it's either UConn or Arizona, it seems like, because Arizona's putting away teams right and left. And then, I don't know, looking at that Tennessee game, I was a little upset because I thought, we're going to get a good basketball game. It's going to be great. Nate Amen's going to show up to the occasion. He only had, 7 points? Yeah. I mean, your star players have to show up in the biggest games when it comes to that. And I think the only guy that showed up was Gillespie. Gillespie was the only guy that really showed up. It was his tournament. If you had asked me, every single game, it was him. He was the focal point in every single game. So, unfortunate their Cinderella story ends at the Elite Eight. But, I mean, you got to give little hats off to Rick Barnes. That's 3 consecutive Elite Eights. Yeah. You wonder if that's their ceiling with Rick Barnes, because seems to be the case.
He got Texas to the Final Four one time. So,
I mean, good for Tennessee.
Yeah. So, just something to think about. So, Illinois will take on UConn. The Illini are a 2.5-point favorite in that one. And then Michigan will take on Arizona. The Wolverines, a 1.5-point favorite in that one. And that will set the national championship, which will take place 1 week from tonight. So the madness is almost over. The one shiny moment, getting ready for that. It's shifted into April and Easter weekend, but we will have a national champion come next Monday night.
Are you surprised at all just the way this has played out the entire tournament?
No, I mean, you have top 3 seeds that have 2 1s, a 2, and a 3. That's typically what happens nowadays where, you'll get some upsets early, but it all shakes out how it's supposed to. Like Tennessee didn't deserve to be in the Final Four. I mean, they had a nice run. Getting to the Elite Eight was great, but they weren't good enough, throughout the course of the season to get to the Final Four, and so they didn't. I mean, ultimately it worked out. I would have loved it for them if they had. I mean, I think Vanderbilt should have gone further than they did, but that's the tournament. It's a very, when we talk about the elite coaches in college basketball, very few have multiple championships, which tells you how difficult that tournament is to win. Rick Barnes is a Hall of Fame coach. He's been to the Final Four once, and then you look at guys like Calipari and Pitino, and Calipari gets, a lot of crap sometimes because he's only got the one national championship. But how many teams has he taken to the Final Four?
4, right?
I mean,
3.
UMass, Memphis, Kentucky. I feel like I'm missing one, but
St. John's?
No, that was which I mean, Pitino almost got them there.
Yeah.
So it's hard to win. So, but yeah, I'm not that surprised because I think Michigan, Arizona, Illinois, UConn are certainly deserving to be there, and we'll see. But once again, no SEC teams.
Yeah, there was somebody that called in last week and was like, "Oh, it's a disappointing year for the SEC." I disagreed because you look at what Florida did against Iowa. Iowa obviously beat them with the last-second shot. But in regards to that, it makes you look at the SEC as still a strong conference for basketball. If, Iowa were to beat, Nebraska going further, I think that's the case, and that did happen. So, you got to wonder back and forth if that gives more credit to Florida. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
The team that beats that SEC team, they go further. That makes that SEC game look a little bit more, stronger.
We're going to react to it all on a Reaction Monday, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. And that leads us into our question of the day. I'm going to let you do the honors since you're in Joe's seat.
Thank you. Yeah, watching the games yesterday, there was a loud pop when that, not buzzer beater, but that last-second shot happened for UConn. You're thinking,
nice shot,
holy cow. I mean, a freshman guard takes a shot and has his one shining moment, as the song says. So if you owned a bar, where would you have it in the Tennessee area, and what would you call it? Because everybody was obviously at their local sports bar, their watering hole, where they love watching games. What would you name your bar, and where would it be?
Oh, that's a good play. Good question. I mean, sentimentally, I've always thought about if I ever opened a bar, I'd name it after my dad because he had a bar, like he was in the restaurant business. So Charlie's Place or something like that. I have also thought that it would be, funny to name it, that one bar or something like that. That way it's like, where are you going? That one bar? Or
and wait, where? I was like, no, that one bar.
That one bar. That's what it's called. So it'd be one of those two things.
I love that. Where?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying where, in the area.
Probably on the west side.
Yeah. Your stomping grounds?
Yeah, I'd probably keep it over on the west side. The hometown. What about you?
Yeah, we redid our patio area, call it Vino's, and I'm just like, nice. Yeah, well, we'll go with Vino's, but if I had to actually have it an establishment somewhere, minus the restaurant thing, I would probably call it, I don't know, the On Tap, something fun, just on tap.
That'd be good.
And just probably having I'd say South Nashville and or you know what? Why not Murfreesboro? Murfreesboro's a hopping place.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of Murfreesboro people that love, a good little bar.
Yeah. 615-737-1025 is our phone and text line. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and our question of the day presented by Aries Tactical. Your safety, your skill, your Aries Tactical. First-time shooters shoot for free. Just tell them that I, Chase McCabe, sent you, and check them out at AriesTactical.com. Brando, what about you?
Man, this is a good question. And I was sitting back here and I was like, what would I name mine? I know where it would be. I would probably do it kind of similarly to Nick, around the Murfreesboro area. I feel like there's a lot of sports fans here and a couple of nice hangouts. So I wouldn't mind adding to that. But how about Good Times? I like that. It's positive. It's simple. It kind of fits the bar vibe. So I like that idea.
Okay. I like that. That's a good one. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your answer to our question of the day throughout the show. But coming up next, there is something that I'm curious about of fallout when it comes to one of these Final Four teams that we will discuss coming up next. He's Nick Frazier in for Big Joe today. Chase McCabe with you. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game. Here on this Monday, Nick Frazier in for Big Joe. I checked in with him earlier. He saw the Beach Boys last night in Key West, and so he's by the pool having a good time.
Good for him.
I think he's enjoying himself. Needed a little break and deserves it for sure. So Big Joe will be back with us on Thursday at the Omni Nashville Hotel. I'm going to work on something kind of cool for that. So hopefully we'll have a special guest at the Omni. But the Final Four is set. Now, one thing, I don't know if you kind of noticed this at the end of the UConn Duke game, but there was a point where UConn coach Dan Hurley gets in the face of one of the officials and almost looks like he headbutts him. And there's a ton of headlines that are like, Dan Hurley got away with giving a referee a menacing forehead tap after the game winner. And it's kind of like, are we not going to do anything about touching an official, even though your name is Dan Hurley? I mean, this is him. He's a fiery guy. But I just thought that was interesting that it wasn't a full-on headbutt, but it looked like he touched an official.
It was weird because it was almost like he was smirking but not smirking and then just literally places his forehead onto the official. I'm just thinking either you're like, trying to instigate something, or was it after the game, or was it right after the shot? That's what I'm trying to figure.
Yeah, I think it was at the end.
Because if it was at the end, they can't really say anything or do anything against that. I mean, unless the official says, hey, he hurt me in some form or fashion. Minus that, if it was during the game of play, they would have teed him up immediately, and that would have been 2 shots. So, again, that's where the pendulum swings, because if it's during the game, Duke would have been right back in it.
I will say this, and the Mullins kid was on Pat McAfee, and now Coach K's on talking about it. But that shot, he was at the letters. He was almost at mid-court, and it was nothing but net. Like that was like one of the prettiest shots I've ever seen.
35 foot.
That was just clutch. Ice water in your veins. It was after the shot. Hurley's got the jacket hanging off of him and just goes up to the ref, and it's kind of like,
he's lucky. Let's put it that way. He's very lucky, because that could have been a tee.
that should have been it should have been.
Yeah. That should have been 2 shots, and Duke would have been right at the free throw line with 0.4 left. That right there, lucky man Dan Hurley. But let's be honest. I loved every bit of it. Look, you could say that I'm a villain fan or a heel fan in some aspects, because the way Dan Hurley, look, if I'm not a big basketball fan, like I don't live and breathe basketball 24/7, to see the character of Dan Hurley, sure, it may be a little bit overzealous, but when you can exude that on the television and keep everybody engaged, I'm all about it. That's the male pageantry right there. It's sport pageantry. Give me every bit of that.
It's why we like pro wrestling.
Yeah.
It's that male soap opera, and the good versus evil and all that stuff. I like the use of the heel. Because I feel like most people, if you did a poll, of the 4 teams remaining, what team is going to get the most popular? Who are people the biggest fans of and the least fans of? I would say UConn is probably the number 1 villain.
Yeah, 100%. Now it's 3 Final Four appearances for them, 23, 24, and now 26.
But even going back to when Calhoun was there, I don't, on the women's side, they win everything. And Gino is a fantastic coach, but I think a lot of people look at him as a villain. So, how do you view, is Illinois the darling? Just because they're not there a lot?
Yeah, I would say they're
Is it Arizona?
Fun
I would think
favorite.
Michigan, there's going to be people that don't like Michigan.
And they relate to the Fab Five and all that fun stuff. But that's way past
even
it.
the football.
Well, that's true with the Sharon Moore and the Harbaugh stuff for sure. But, looking at the teams, I'd say Illinois. Yeah, because they're the fan favorite, the fun one. You could say the baby face of the 4. That's where you look at the teams and say they take care of business, but they do it in a fun way. Whereas for UConn, they're dirty, they're gritty, they get it done, and it's the UConn way. It's the Dan Hurley way.
I think it'd be fun. I'm going to, or Brando, if you want to handle this, putting a Twitter poll up of what team do you like the least, and name all Final Four teams, and let's see by the end of the show. Because my guess is UConn's going to win that. That UConn is, that everybody likes them the least.
I would say the team that would fall at the bottom of this poll, to me, would be Arizona. I just feel like the West Coast teams get forgotten about.
Yeah. Well, so you're saying that, you're just saying that like you think that people just don't care.
Yeah, I think people just don't care about Arizona. I think they're one of those teams that they'll go out there and play basketball, but then not really pay much attention to them. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
But I think you're right, though. Illinois, Babyface, UConn, the heel. If that does become the Final Four matchup of the year, I think that's it right there.
615-737-1025. We'll obviously have some time to break down the matchups this week, and we'll talk to some of our basketball people. Like, I'm going to watch, but I'm now like, I don't really care. I don't care who wins.
Yeah.
I really don't. If I just want to watch some good games, but I have no dog in the hunt on this one. There's not a – so let's see. Illinois is in what conference are they in?
Big Ten.
They're in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Then UConn's in the Big East.
Correct.
Michigan's Big Ten. Arizona's in the Big –
was the Pac-12. Now it's the –
are they in the Big 12?
I think Big 12. I'll double check.
Is that right?
Arizona.
I can't keep track of it. Yeah, Big 12.
Yeah.
So you have no ACC and no SEC.
It's kind of telling, though. I mean, it goes back to this whole NIL conversation. I feel like the NIL rekindles the old school powerhouses in all these conferences, like minus, Arizona with the Big 12 because of the Pac-12 is now dead. We get all that. But you look at the Big East, St. John's is back up in there, UConn's back up in there because of this NIL, because of all the funding of money that is now legally allowed to do so.
So the ACC has not won since 2019 when Virginia won.
Wow. Really?
Tony Bennett and Virginia beat Texas Tech and Chris Beard in OT. There was no tournament in 2020. Baylor is Big 12. Kansas is Big 12. And then UConn was the Big East, and then Florida won last year as the SEC.
Wow. I mean, again, that's pretty sporadic for the most part. Like, if you kind of look at those last couple, I'd say it's sporadic to the point where it's even.
I mean, I like that, though. And then Villanova, what's Villanova? Are they the Big East?
I believe so.
Yeah, they're the Big East. Villanova before that, North Carolina, 2017. That's ACC. Then Nova, then Duke, then UConn. Louisville was ACC, and that was taken away. Then Kentucky. So that's kind of where things sit in basketball right now.
But that's good. To me, that's good.
Yeah.
It shows difference. It shows all that diversity in the game. That's what I'm about. Is the game is diverse.
This also lists the future sites of the Final Four. So Indianapolis this year. Do you know where they are next year?
I'm just going to take a wild guess.
I don't think you're going to get it. But
New Orleans?
No. Detroit. Ford Field.
Really?
Yeah. 28 in Vegas. Back to Indy in 29. They're kind of on a every 4-year
contract rotation
deal there. Arlington, Jerry's World in 2030, and then Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in 31. So Nashville could potentially get in the running in 32, 33, somewhere in there.
And that'll be after the renovations, correct?
Well, no, the Final Four would be at the stadium.
I'm saying for the new Nissan stadium.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I keep forgetting about that. Because the women's national championship was at Bridgestone Arena.
Correct.
Say what, in 2019, 2018, somewhere around that?
Yeah,
because Notre Dame won that, I believe. Yeah.
Yep. So they go to all these stadiums, which I don't like, but
kind of takes away the intimate setting to me. Like if you're inside of an arena, I think that's more of an intimate setting to where you can actually feel the atmosphere of the game. Whereas, you go into these giant football stadiums, and again, they've had it at Lucas Oil before, but you go into those other new stadiums, like you're talking about new Nissan Stadium and so forth. It's nice, but there's too much space. And you can't really get the true ambiance feel. It's almost like you're going to
I mean, I know they're not going to stop doing it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, new trend. Maybe it's a fad.
That's it's not how I like it. On our question of the day, which is if you owned a bar, what would you name it? Where would it be and what would you name it? Ryan in Florida says, in Florida we have a place that's just called That Place. Oh, I like that.
That is cool.
Hair Metal Henry says, I need Dr. Crane to get in on this restaurant bar business so I can know where I can go drink for free.
Oh, yeah, there you go. On tap. There you go.
Yeah, so there you go.
That would be pretty cool, though, to just call it On Tap And/or I thought of another one that'd be kind of funny, just like empty stool. Say you have one,
Yeah.
empty stool or something, and/or you could take it another way, however you look at it.
Well, I like where Joe is in Key West. There's a place called Captain Tony's Saloon that they have like bar stools that have a celebrity's name on it, and that's like their stool. And then for those that have passed, they have them hanging. So Mike Leach has one hanging because he was there a lot. And there's a bunch of Mississippi State signed stuff and Washington State, which is cool. Jimmy Buffett's is hanging. Hemingway, JFK, like there were people that were there.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool. I can't remember if you went in there or not.
Oh, yeah.
When we were there.
Yeah, we were there, the last night before we came back? That was fun.
Yeah, so pretty cool. 615-737-1025. Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier in for Big Joe today. It's Chasing Big Joe here on this Monday on 102.5 The Game. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game here on this Monday. Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier in for Big Joe. Brandon Bigsby behind the glass. Want to give a shout out. I saw that one of our texters brought it to our attention and then saw it on Twitter. Shout out to our man John Glennon, who's covered Nashville sports for a long time. He gave an update on what he's kind of been going through health-wise, and you can check it out at Glennon Sports on X. But he said, it's been a minute on the clock today for the first time in nearly 3 months. Glad to be back, but want to share some personal news. And he says he was admitted to the hospital January 4th for severe back pain. They found 4 compression fractures in his lower back and diagnosed him with multiple myeloma, a blood cancer. He's undergone 10 radiation treatments, 6 immunotherapy treatments, and a back strengthening procedure, which is a word that I don't think I can pronounce, kyphoplasty. Hope I said that right. But anyway, looks like things are looking up for John. Johnny's always been great to me when I've run into him at events, and it was funny. We were talking about the Virginia Cavaliers, huge Virginia fan. But Johnny, we're thinking about you. We're praying for you, and hopefully you can be back to 100% soon. But just passing that along because he's one of the good ones in this town that cover anything from the Titans, the Preds, Nashville SC, Vanderbilt, doesn't matter. Johnny's all over it. So
absolutely
thinking about you, John, and hope to see you very soon.
Yeah, echo the same sentiment. I mean, I've not had the privilege to meet John yet, but
you've never met Johnny?
I've never met him. I've seen him in person a few times at Nashville SC games, but just to read a statement online at his Twitter account, it's good to see he has a little sense of humor in there. He goes, another plus, haven't had to worry about losing my hair. So funny people that know he does not have any hair. So there you go.
Yeah. Hey, look, in a situation like that, you got to have a little bit of a sense of humor. So thinking about you, John, and hope to see you very, very soon. What do we think is going to come out of the owner meetings?
Like you mentioned earlier about the whole, double bye potentially with the 2 bye weeks, I think that does get done. I think we see something along the lines of that, and I think we see the Super Bowl.
So for next season?
Correct, yeah. And I think what we're going to see is the Super Bowl gets pushed to President's Day.
Which I don't like that because that messes with the Daytona 500. But, NASCAR would have to figure that out, I guess.
And NASCAR is always like a night race for that, right?
No, it's a Sunday afternoon race. So, so hypothetically, you could do it, on the same day, but I don't think they would do that. I think they would. They'd move it. They'd probably just push back a week.
So ESPN has it this upcoming season for the Super Bowl.
Yes.
So
on
then
ABC.
It'd be the first time ever.
Well, for ESPN, it's been on ABC before.
Right, but for ESPN.
Yeah.
So then that following year would be, is it a rotation in CBS, NBC?
Fox. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then it'd probably go to CBS then. So, they could make it work because it wouldn't be on Fox, right? Because a lot of the NASCAR races, there's a Fox deal there.
Yep. The Daytona 500 is on Fox yet. So, look, they're not going to fight it being on the same day. So this year, the 27 is on ABC, ESPN, 28's on CBS, 29's on Fox, 30's on NBC. So, and then it rotates again.
Okay. That's doable.
Yeah. So, so this year it wouldn't affect anything, but I'll be curious. Because the Super Bowl is on Valentine's Day this year.
Is it really?
Or 2027. Yep.
Well, let's just say if the Titans were to draft Jeremiah Love, they could have some love on Super Bowl day.
They could. Oh, I see what you did
Would
there.
love to see that. Also, I'm in full support of you. I read an article over the weekend about the racetrack at the fairgrounds.
Oh, thank you.
Full support of you, just
Thank
FYI.
you. Thank you.
I think
that's important because you're a soccer guy.
Yeah, there is a way where both can be married and be happily enjoying life. So there you go.
Both sides just have to want that. I guess they would have to redo the CBA, which runs through March 2031. The owners are clamoring for, this is from a NBC Sports Boston article, the owners are clamoring for an 18-game season ASAP. Their stance is the rising cost means the league needs more inventory to sell. More games, more money, and more for the players who currently get about 50% of the gross revenue. We're going to push like the Dickens now to make international exposure more important with us, Patriots owner Robert Kraft told the Sports Hub back in January. Every team will go to 18 games and 2 exhibition games and eliminate one of the preseason games. Every team every year will play one game overseas. I don't hate that. Like if that ends up being what they do where, one of the games is, in London or Germany or whatever. I don't completely hate it. I would rather have that than actually having a franchise like in London.
Yeah, and I know they're playing in Melbourne, Australia with the 49ers. And
that's why the kickoff game is going to be Wednesday night, so it'll air Thursday night when it's actually Friday in Australia.
Yeah.
So you get back-to-back games, which is kind of crazy.
And for those that, I'm a big rugby fan for NRL, that is on a day where they normally don't have football or their rugby. So which is good. It kind of offsets, and it's near the end of the season for them. So it ramps things up to where they can get ready for their playoffs, but also have NFL in between that.
Yeah. So I'll be curious if they agree to this, if this ends up passing this time around with the owners. I mean, obviously the players are going to have to get on board with it, but I mean, my thing is if it's more money, it's more money. More money for us or more money for you, more money for them, but you're always going to have the billionaires fighting millionaires and so who knows?
I'm intrigued to know if any discussions about the NFL RA gets mentioned with the NFL Referees Association because there was a few articles.
They got to get that fixed.
Yeah, because if that's the case, they're going to have a bunch of, interim referees to start the season, and we all know what that's like back in 2012 where we had the Fail Mary, right? The interception and touchdown in Seattle and Green Bay. Nobody wants to see that again. So hopefully that is a conversation that's being had today at these owners meetings. Because if it's not, then NFL's in some deep doo-doo going forward.
They are. I mean, they can't go through that again.
Because they talk about the product, like you just mentioned, Chase. Money. They want to keep, getting revenue. If you have a bad product and you don't have the proper referees to dictate that, you're going to lose money in the back end of it.
Yeah, you are. And that's why they need to make sure that this is taken care of before the season starts, because especially if you're trying to push 18 games and get more TV partners. I mean, they're everything is for sale. Like they're basically trying to, any special game they have, they're now bidding. It's not just included in a certain package anymore. So now you have Netflix involved, you have Amazon involved, NBC Peacock, CBS, Paramount Plus. You got exclusive games on Peacock. They're trying to get even YouTube wants games. I mean,
yeah, they had one with the Chargers last year.
Yeah.
I think second, third week with the Chiefs. That was a really good game too. And like back to the whole referee point just for a second, like they're trying to get an annual salary increase, and right now it's at 6.45%. That is roughly, I think last season it was like $350,000 to $385,000 in that ballpark of a window. So if they're able to kind of capitalize on that, I think that's the huge plus. The big issue for the NFL refs right now is it's kind of the same thing with baseball. They're having an issue with the robot situation with ABS. I think ABS is a good thing. We'll get to that later. But for the NFL purposes, you have those little chips in the football. So you're trying to figure out what the first down is.
Yeah.
And so like that's kind of taken away a little bit of the human element of the NFL. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of growing pains.
But
there.
I mean, my thing is, if you have technology, then you should use it. I mean, we're either you use it or you don't use it at all. It's kind of how I look at it. Like, And what I mean by that is if the refs are like, no, this is our job, then okay, fine. And go full human element. But there's no instant replay, there's no challenges, and no way in hell anybody's ever going to go for that because the genie's out of the bottle. I mean, we have seen it now. You know, we talked about this. Eugenio Suarez over the weekend twice challenged the position of a pitch that the ump tried to ring him up and strike him out. And they looked at it with ABS, and twice he was way off, and it was those were 2 balls. I mean, and the at bat stayed alive. We have the technology, and look, the ump looked bad because it's like one of them. I'm like, what are you looking at?
Seaweed Buckner's known for that,
right? But this is what's going to happen now. You're going to have some of these umps that are going to be forced into retirement because they've just been lazy, quite frankly, for years. And it's going to hold them more accountable. If we have the technology to do that, why not use it? Same goes for the NFL. You know, I love bringing the chain gang out and measuring and all of that. But if you have a chip in the football or AI or whatever that can look at it and go, nope, it's short, or yep, it's a first down, why would you not use that?
I agree. And you need to add something to the goal line, too. That's my big issue. Like, if you look in soccer, they have goal line technology where the ball is either fully across the line or it's not fully across the line. You need to do something for touchdowns in the NFL. If the nose of the football touches that goal line, that's a touchdown.
I think every play should be reviewed. It kind of be like hockey. Like, you know, every goal is reviewed. They look at offsides. And you just basically you play until there's a stoppage, and then it goes back to that point if they determine that something's different. You know, look at pass interference. And like if the sky judge says, hey, wait a minute, that was PI, then you whistle down and you change the play. But like, you know, don't leave it all in the coach's hands and with challenges and stuff. Just have you can do review. It's quick enough now that you can look at it. And before they snap, you know whether it is or it isn't.
And if it needs more time, guess what? You have TV timeouts for that.
Correct.
Add another TV timeout.
And you can have a ref in the booth that goes down to the White House and says, "Hey, hang on, we're looking at this. You know, don't snap it yet. We're looking at this real quick." And you know, because wouldn't you rather take an extra minute to make sure they got the play right for your team?
100%.
Because how many times have we been on one side or the other of a PI call or a hold or something that they missed that screwed your team over?
Numerous amounts of times.
And so for me, I would rather see them get that right than, you know, than whatever. I mean, because pass interference for me could be a different definition for you. And that's why they can have a sky judge and look at it. And so I don't know.
Add more people in the box for you if that's like talking about Skyview. But add more referees up there because if you don't, then again the product will start to dilute itself on its own.
0862 says you're talking about the human element and the umpire. Do you think he was trying to ring him up the second time just because of being challenged? Maybe.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
I mean, Buckner's that way. Yeah, so I would say maybe.
He holds grudges. He really does. I was reading a few articles about Buckner.
Because the second one was like, I think they determined it was like an inch or two off out of the zone.
Out of the zone.
Like it was like when they showed it, I'm like, how in the hell are you calling that a strike?
Yeah, and there's a thing online. It's called the umpire scorecards, and I'm sure Rob Manfred puts those into factor. And you can go look at what calls were missed, what calls were made, and if you can figure out that, then you start getting the evaluation process of all these umpires. And the ones that had the most calls that were missed, they're probably going to be reduced salary and/or they won't be re-upped on their contracts.
So like this says Adam Beck. He's only a lot of these guys have only done one game, but correct calls above expected 3.07. So a 94.55 accuracy.
It's pretty good.
So he's numbers challenged 4, 2 overturned. Interesting. I have to go look at this.
I kind of look at that as like, you know, in the NHL, you look at goal
Buckner's
percentage.
minus 12.2.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's awful.
Oh, man.
I equate it to like goalie percentages. Like you look at UC Soros, if he's like below a 9, like a 900, that's kind of how I look at the umpire percentages.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like this. I'll have to go through and look at this. 615-737-1025 is our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Our question of the day: if you owned a bar, where and what would you name it? 615-737-1025. In honor of everybody watching the March Madness game winner for UConn, likely at a bar.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. Chasing Big Joe, Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier, in for Joe today, 102.5 The Game. Talk to him, kid. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game here on this Monday. Little DX bringing us back. Well done, Brando. Well done.
This was my first ever ringtone when I got my cell phone. Yeah, I was like 6th grade, and I was like, all right, got a Droid. Let's put on DX.
28 years ago yesterday was the night after WrestleMania, and X-Pac returned to the company and did an absolute brilliant shoot promo on WCW and Hulk Hogan. But it's hard to believe that was 28 years ago. And then 28 years ago today, Chris Jericho did his famous 1,000 hold promo where he said armbar like 50 times. So little wrestling history for you.
-1 years old, but that's okay. History's there.
God, I feel old.
So,
yeah, you both probably weren't around that yet. Well, that was the golden age.
Don't
That is
worry.
for sure.
At my grandmother's house, we have like a giant stack of like VHS tapes of like Raw is War, like all the old school wrestling tapes. It's fantastic.
Well, my buddy Ricky and I love to do that because X-Pac in that promo is like, you know, our buddies Scott Hall and Kevin Nash would be right here. And we reference that a lot. So, and Rick just sent me Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. So there you go. There it is. Talking about the ABS, now that we're through a weekend of baseball, do you love it or hate it? I love it. I think it's fine. I mean, especially witnessing a 16-inning college baseball game over the weekend. You know, the only rule that I still am not a huge fan of is the ghost runner. I get it. I understand it. You don't want these games. You know, I think in the postseason, everything needs to be as is. If you play 22 innings, you play 22 innings. But I get it. I understand the process behind it. But the ABS, and I used to call them robo-umps. I was against it for a while, but I like the challenge system. You know, you still have some of the human element, but you have checks and balances to that as well. So I applaud baseball, and Jeff Hemm's going to join us tomorrow because we're going to be out at the Sounds. He has seen a lot of this stuff, you know, for years now in AAA because they've been testing it in the minors. I applaud baseball for pace of play and making the game more exciting. And, you know, yeah, there are things you're seeing where the scores are higher. It's more about hitting. I will always reference the Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux commercial from the 90s, Chicks Dig the Long Ball. And, I mean, it's true. I mean, we want to see – now I'm old school. I'd love to see a pitcher's duel, but most fans want to see a lot of hitting. They want to see a lot of offense. You know, it's either that or a no-hitter. I mean, like that's what you want to see when you go to a game. So I like it. I like the ABS. I like the challenge system that, you know, they have that now. And so I think that baseball has made some moves that are making it more watchable both in person and on television, which is what they needed to do.
Yeah, and the spot-on thing you mentioned there was that it doesn't take up a lot of time.
No,
I think that's
it's easy.
The beauty of that is you just tap your helmet or just, you know, tap your arm and say, hey, ref, let's review this real quick. Not even 15 seconds later, it's already done. Yeah. I think the only flaw I have in the ABS system is looking at it from an extra innings perspective, because when you go into, let's say, the World Series or you go into just the playoffs in general, it's in the top of the 11th inning. There is a ball that's low in the zone. He calls it a strike. You don't have any more challenges. I think they
give you one.
Oh, okay.
For extra innings.
Each inning, or is it just?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Are the challenges for each player or the team?
For the team. You get 2 for the entire game.
Oh, wow. So you got to be.
Yeah, there's some strategy
if you win them, you keep it, right?
Correct. You retain them, yep.
So that's why Eugenio Suarez was like, I mean, and look, they were pretty.
They were blatant.
Yeah. So it was almost like he was doing it on purpose, but it's like,
Right.
I'm going to use these.
Yeah, I just thought overall the opening weekend of Major League Baseball, there were two games. One last night on Sunday Night Baseball went 6.5 or 7 innings to where it was a no-hitter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fantastic to watch. Cardinals, Michael McGreevy, another one, 6 innings. So there was a lot of no-nos going on around the league. And looking at the ABS as a whole, there was 124 ABS challenges called. I believe there was over 50%, it was like 54%.
Yeah.
67 calls were exactly the right call. So
I love seeing NBC back in it, too. Yeah. NBC returns to the NBA and Major League Baseball all in the same year, and I think it's great.
There was a video I saw over the weekend. It was like a nice little beautiful infographic. Somebody drew a wonderful circle, and it showed like NBC with basketball, NBC with baseball, and it shows Sunday Night Football. It's a great breakdown. I'll find it in the break and show you, but NBC's doing a really good job at just covering all those sports.
Josh and Whitehouse, when talking about what we're saying with both the NFL and in reviewing things, I agree with just about everything y'all are saying. The only issue I see is the idea of interrupting with the hurry up if they have to stop play to review a play for a few seconds longer. The potential for giving the defense a rest when the opposing offense is running the hurry up. That's a really good point. And, I mean, I think that's something that they probably would have to look at, that's when, you'd have to challenge it, or – like they'd have to basically stop play. Like if they think it's egregious, then again, do you want it right or do you want to run the hurry up? I mean, that would have to be a discussion for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's the one flaw you can't really get rid of in NFL in general, is because when you're in the 2-minute, it's always going to be inclined to be offensively oriented because that's what it's for. You can't go and say, hey, this call's real tight. Like you said, it has to be egregious. It has to be something so out there that you're just like, this has to be stopped. We have to fix this.
Would you sign up for you don't stop play, but if you score, kind of like in hockey, if you score, then they can go back and review it and reverse it?
I'd be okay with that. I think if it's in the same drive, say if it's like or let's say it's 2nd and 4, and they get the first down, but that first down the guy bobbled the catch, and they still retained it as a catch, and they continue the drive, I think that's okay. I'm all right with that.
Basically, what you would have, I think the only way that they would be for this is the clock would have to go back to that point.
Correct. That's exactly what I was thinking.
You would have to basically say that the game from that point on didn't exist. So you go back to 2nd and 14, or it'd be 3rd and 14 with 2:06 left on the clock.
And or you could do it this way, and this is really outside the box. Say it's Cleveland versus Kansas City. Kansas City's the one that bobbled the catch, but they said continuing on with the play. Say Cleveland says, we're going to challenge this, but like you're saying, let the drive continue.
Yeah.
And if they're incorrect on it, or if they are correct on it, you give, let's say, Kansas City a 10-yard penalty, and you go back to where it was.
Yeah, you could do that.
Something like that.
I mean, you could say, like, hey, we determined that, you were – And look, don't do it on an offsides, or I mean, like I'm talking like a pass interference or,
something
what
blatant.
have you, something crazy. Could be like, here's the deal: either it's going to go back to this time, or loss of a down, and you take like a 20-yard penalty.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that would work great.
So there are options there, but I'd be curious of how they look at it. 615-737-1025. We'll have more coming in hour number 2, including the Preds have embarked on the most important road trip of the season. It is season defining. We'll discuss that and much more coming up next in hour number 2. John McClain at 2. Chasing Big Joe, Dr. Crane in for Big Joe today. 1025 The Game.